Happy Thursday. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. And we're almost through the week. And after yesterday, beautiful day in downtown Springfield. The sun was shining. And you had hundreds of gun owners in downtown Springfield marching through the capital city, heading towards the Capitol to lobby their lawmakers. And this after, of course, we have the assault weapons ban that's been in place since January 10th and a slew of lawsuits that have been filed against the ban from state level and federal level challenges. A lot to get to on all of this, including some of what was talked about at the rally at the convention center in Springfield, but also some of what was talked about at the rally outside the Capitol at the Lincoln statue, a popular rallying point for a lot of various groups, including gun owners who came to Springfield yesterday. But we were able to, at least before those gatherings, ask the governor about his message for gun owners. And it was yesterday also Ag Day for people to go and lobby their lawmakers concerning Illinois agriculture. And the governor was taking part in that. So at a separate event, he did take some questions from various members of the media. And here's some of what the governor had to say yesterday when asked about what his message is for those rallying in Springfield to secure their rights to keep and bear arms.
Well, let's start with just everybody's voice should be heard if people want to gather and make their point. This is obviously the city to do it in with the legislators here in session. So we welcome everybody, all views. We also, of course, are here, 3 days after this terrible shooting in Nashville. We all grieve, I think, for the 3 adults and 3 very young children who died that day, but also deeply concerned about the kinds of weapons that were used in that attack. One person with a couple of assault-style weapons and other weapons on her. And we pray that'll never happen in the state of Illinois, and certainly an assault weapons ban will help us to limit the possibility of that ever occurring.
So what message do you have for what could be potentially thousands of Illinoisans marching down the street?
Again, we welcome their voices. We can all have disagreements on important issues, but their voices should be heard.
So again, we can all have disagreements on certain issues, but their voices should be heard, he says. And there are disagreements on these issues, including various lawsuits that have been filed against the gun ban that was enacted January 10th. A week or so later, you had a state-level lawsuit, another state-level lawsuit, and then a week after that, you had several federal lawsuits that were filed. State-level cases, you've got one out of Macon County where a judge in a final order on a county level said that the law is unconstitutional. That's all the way up into the Illinois Supreme Court with a hearing in mid-May. You've got 3 other state-level cases that Attorney Thomas DeVore has. He's proceeding with discovery to find out how exactly this law came together and what kinds of rationale there were used in order to carve out police, retired police, those in the security sector, prison wardens, jailers. Why are they carved out of this law and can go out and buy certain semi-automatic weapons and magazines of certain capacities and not have to register their firearms? Why are they carved out of the law while you've got regular citizens with a Second Amendment not able to purchase these types of weapons that the governor and the legislature has deemed assault weapons? So the equal protections arguments are in the state level courts, and then you've got the Second Amendment arguments that are in the federal courts, and 4 cases filed there, consolidated in the Southern District of Illinois. That is going to be heard in East St. Louis April 12th. So we'll be watching both of those state level and federal level cases very closely, as we have been here each and every morning with Springfield's Morning News. Now, you heard the governor there. Coming back, we'll hear what was talked about during Illinois Gun Owner Lobby Day. And in particular, we'll start with the conversations that were being had at the convention center in Springfield with Illinois State Rifle Association Executive Director Richard Pearson, their lobbyist Ed Sullivan, also House Minority Leader Tony McCombie spoke. So we'll hear from those three next here on WMAY. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg. Yesterday was iGold. There were hundreds of people in Springfield marching through the streets, gun owners demanding their Second Amendment rights be restored. As they say, the semi-automatic ban in Illinois is a violation of their rights. And this, of course, is being litigated as we have even more litigation expected if these particular measures don't get shot down by the courts. You've also got other legislation that's being proposed. Another reason why the gun lobby in Illinois is adamant that gun owners continue to be activated and to donate to various causes. And that was one of the messages that was brought up yesterday at the Prairie Capital Convention Center, now known as the Bank of Springfield Center, and BOS Center is where a lot of people gather for conventions and concerts even. And that's also where every year that iGold happens. It's where they have like a meeting of sorts to lay out, here's what you got to talk with your lawmakers about. We're going to march down here and this is where you're going to go and all of this. But there's also time for various words that are shared concerning the status of things. And that's where Richard Pearson yesterday, the executive director of the Illinois State Rifle Association, shared some of his thoughts, but also you hear from Ed Sullivan, who is a lobbyist for the State Rifle Association, and also finished up here with this clip is House Minority Leader Tony McCombie talking about her thoughts on where we're at with gun rights in Illinois.
This case that we're looking at will change not only Illinois, but every state in the union. Okay, it eats time, it eats money, and that's what the state wants, because the state has the ability to use my money to fight me. I have to use my money and your money to fight them. So they use our money against us. But that doesn't mean we're going away. That doesn't mean we're going to give up. We are going to fight on no matter what. So we have a battery of other cases. We are going to batter them with lawsuits, and we're going to keep them busy constantly.
They're like, well, where's the happy ground? I said, well, there really isn't, because your side doesn't understand our side, and our side doesn't understand your side, so there's really isn't a middle ground. And so, what's the difference? And they asked, well, what's the difference between us? And I relayed a couple stories. When I grew up, when I was 12, I would take a 22 410 over-under out on the farm, and I'd go hit cans or, shoot at different things and maybe bring home a grouse. And my parents didn't even think twice about seeing me leave in the morning and come back right about lunch. They didn't really worry about that. You couldn't see that in modern times with some of the suburbanites out here. I relayed the story, and I did it for cause. In this hearing, I talked about my son Finn, who at the age of 11 or 12, if you handed him an AR-15, he could disassemble it, clean it, reassemble it, load it with a 30-round mag, and hit a target at 50 rounds, and he was 12 years old. What's the difference between us and them? We're cheering, I'm crying, and I'm proud. But we teach responsible gun ownership to our children. And we'll never see us as a group have problems with that because of it. So in the audience at those hearings were the moms demand actions. I heard from some of the people sitting in there that a few of them thought that maybe I should be charged with child endangerment by DCFS because of my actions. That's the difference between them and us. We also would not even think about relying on government to protect us. That's the difference between them and us. Little story, said mainly because my son's here.
Is the one purpose of all of this legislation is to take away our Second Amendment rights. And I say, boo! My comms person is like, that is not in your script at all. No, it's not. I will say, though, as the House Republican leader, I'm proud to stand before you. I'm proud to stand with you. And I'm proud to stand with my Republican caucus to do everything that we can in our unwavering defense of our Second Amendment rights. In Northwest Illinois and in my district and throughout most of the state, there is a healthy culture of hunting to put food on our tables, educating our youth and families, building bonds through sport. Personally, I like the sport, as many of the women in the room do, because we're a much better shot than our husbands, and we like to remind them of that. Come on, girls, you can do better than that. Our culture, our values, and our rights cannot be discounted, and that is why you are all here today, to remind lawmakers that we have the Second Amendment rights and what exactly that means. Poor policy decisions have put us in a position why you're all here. Every day, our caucus fights bad legislation like gun registries, gun bans, and cumbersome regulations. Our colleagues on the other side of the aisle do not solicit or consider stakeholders' opinions. They pass bills that affect all of us in the dead of the night without transparency and without time allowing you to weigh in. It is wrong, and we will continue to fight against this bad behavior. Democrats in the House of Representatives have acted like the only solution to solving crimes of bad people, to illegal guns, to mass shootings, to increasing criminal gun violence is gun bans. They act like there is no compromise, and that is just not true. We want crimes to be punished. We don't want crimes to go unpunished. We want those that need help to be helped. The Illinois House Republicans want to offer solutions. We support increased mental health services and giving law enforcement the training and the tools that they need to do their jobs. There are bad actors in every industry, every area of our state, but that does not mean that constitutional rights can fall by the wayside. We must protect our rights to bear arms. Many policy decisions, ones that have been hastily made or do not take our rights into account, have negative consequences. We have seen these policies fail time after time. As leader, know our caucus is working to ensure that we do what we can as Republicans and as law-abiding gun owners to prevent any future poor policy from coming and harming our communities. We will continue to enact and push for policies that make our communities safer, protect law-abiding gun owners, and respect law enforcement.
Again, that's Toni McCombie. She's the House Minority Leader speaking in front of gun owners during the pre-lobby event for the speakers at the Bank of Springfield Center here in Springfield. And after that, they then headed outside and they marched through the streets of Springfield, which is always something interesting to see. And coming up, I'll share some of what was said outside of the Capitol after hundreds of individuals marched to the Capitol. So we'll get to that coming up here next on WMAY. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop. Follow along all the time, anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air and you and I can connect that way. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and a shout out to everybody tuned in on YouTube. Greatly appreciate you guys each and every weekday morning. Much more coming up here, all right? Stay tuned. It is Springfield's Morning News as we look at some of what was talked about yesterday at Illinois gun owner lobby. Hundreds of gun owners in the streets of Springfield yesterday. Governor J.B. Pritzker, he had been asked what his message is for those gun owners that were rallying in Springfield yesterday. The governor had a separate event. Here's what he had to say.
Well, let's start with just everybody's voice should be heard if people want to gather and make their point. This is obviously the city to do it in with the legislators here in session. So we welcome everybody, all views. We also, of course, are here, 3 days after this terrible shooting in Nashville. We all grieve, I think, for the 3 adults and 3 very young children who died that day. But also deeply concerned about the kinds of weapons that were used in that attack. One person with a couple of assault-style weapons and other weapons on her. And we pray that'll never happen in the state of Illinois, and certainly an assault weapons ban will help us to limit the possibility of that ever occurring.
So what message do you have for what could be potentially thousands of Illinoisans marching down the street?
Again, we welcome their voices. We can all have disagreements on important issues, but their voices should be heard.
So you heard the governor there responding to the question of what message does he have. There weren't thousands there, but there were hundreds that were gun owners in Springfield from across the state marching towards the state capitol to lobby their lawmakers to push back against restrictive gun control, which Illinois, having the most strict gun laws in the nation, among the most strict, everything from the requirement for a firearm owner identification card to the new ban on 170 plus semi-automatic weapons and magazines over a certain capacity. So gun owners obviously making their voice heard. Was not as large as previous IGOLDs I had seen, especially as we saw the lead up to the concealed carry law being implemented. And that was back in 2013. There were 7,000 people in downtown Springfield for that. I don't know if this was poorly advertised. I had people coming up to me yesterday saying, I only heard about this because you talked about it on your show. But the State Rifle Association being the one that organizes the Illinois Gun Owner Lobby Day, and we heard from Executive Director Richard Pearson when he spoke to gatherers at the Bank of Springfield Center yesterday. And after that, they then marched. They marched through the streets to the Capitol building where they rallied and heard from a slew of speakers. And those speakers will share with you now some of what they had to say. And this is starting off with State Representative Chris Miller, and you'll hear from Blaine Wilhauer, Jed Davis. Also, you've got C.D. Davidsmeyer, and one other as well. I forget exactly all who spoke, but here's a compilation of those voices that were being shared yesterday outside the Capitol complex in Springfield.
This afternoon, to celebrate the Second Amendment, my name is Chris Miller. I'm the chairman of the Illinois Freedom Caucus. We're joined with the patriots in Washington, D.C. that got you better rules and the right to govern for we the people. One thing that we need to remember is the fight for freedom never ends. And there's one thing that we know experientially, that the very republic hangs in the balance, depending on patriots like you to stand up, to push back and say, not on my watch are we ever going to relinquish our guns. Never, not now, not never, not down the road, not ever. And we need to make sure that we continue to show up at events like this, because we are not descendants of fearful men. We just celebrated our Vietnam veterans inside today, and we celebrate the veterans that have gone before us that have sacrificed much. We stand in the shadow of Abraham Lincoln right back here that said that we were conceived in liberty. We're conceived in liberty. And what does that mean to each one of us? That means that the seed or the idea of freedom was planted in the heart of a young nation. The seed of freedom And the idea that we can live free was planted into the hearts of young patriots. And it's our responsibility as American freedom-loving citizens to make sure that we plant our feet in the right place, that we're on the solid rock, and we're steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for our labor is not in vain in him. God bless you and thank you, and God bless America, and God bless the state of Illinois.
All right, Illinois gun owners, how y'all doing? Now, come on. Now, your Second Amendment, your constitutional rights are under assault in this state right now. Illinois gun owners, how y'all doing? All right, let's go, guys. Hey, we may not have the numbers in this place, but we got the law, we got the Constitution is on our side here. And if J.B. Pritzker thinks that he's going to come and make you register your legally obtained firearms, you better pack a lunch, right? Because it ain't happening, all right? So we got to keep up the fight. Thank you guys for being up here. It's all about you. You're the one that's moving the fight on this. So God bless you guys, and let's go forward. Thank you.
Freedom. Yeah, I'm Jed Davis, state rep of the 75th. Hey, and just yesterday, I think this is really critical, we had a rep stand up on the House floor talking about that crazy ban that just came through with the words saying it is not enough. And that really irked me. It is way too much. We cannot yield another line, and we need to continually push back against the insanity that is happening behind us here in Springfield. Enough is enough. It is not enough. Heck, is way too much, right? Enough of this garbage. We are free people of the United States of America, and it is time that we stand upon the Constitution and the freedoms that God implanted within our hearts and stand firm, and we will stand on your behalf, all of the men and women behind us. We are so grateful for you. We can do it. We will continue the voice in severing freedom for the people of this state.
We need you. We have to sit across the aisle having these bad bills shoved down our throats. We need you today. We need you every single day. If you're from an area that your legislator is not proud to be up here, tell them that you need them to be up here and stand up for you. Again, not just today, every day of the year, because that's what it's going to take. Thank you.
Hey, everybody, Chapin Rose, 51st Senate District, Lawrence County to Vermilion County, straight up the Indiana line. Welcome to Springfield, everybody. Thank you for supporting our Second Amendment. I want to say one thing that Chris Miller picked up on. You don't need a law to protect you in your own home. God gave us the right to protect us in our own home. This is from on high. It doesn't come from a politician. It doesn't come from anybody in this building. It sure as hell doesn't come from J.B. Pritzker. Each one of us has a right to defend ourselves, our families, and our homes. End of story. That's why it's in the Constitution of the United States.
And when we talk about the Second Amendment, I think many of these people don't understand why the Second Amendment was created. It wasn't created so that I can take my son hunting, right? Why was it created? To fight back against tyranny, right? So that's what we're fighting for. Also, my wife, her family is from Ohio. If they come here, they have more rights than I do because I have a FOID card, right? That's absolutely ridiculous that we are second-class citizens in our own state. We have to make changes, and we have to protect legal, law-abiding gun owners. Protect our rights. Thank you.
So again, that was just some of the voices there at the rally outside the Lincoln statue here in Springfield at the state capitol, where Illinois Gun Owner Lobby Day took place yesterday. Will we see similar actions where hundreds of people gather at the Illinois State House? It'll be interesting as this case progresses, as the state's ban on certain semi-automatic weapons continues, and the challenges in the courts play out. You've got, again, a hearing that's going to be happening April 12th in the consolidated federal cases. And coming up mid-May, you've got the case that is going to be heard in the Illinois Supreme Court. So a lot more still to be said about all of this. And, of course, you can sound off on it here with WMAY at 217-629-7970. Let's see if we can go ahead and get a call. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Greg, they lose me with the God stuff. It's a God-given right. Who's God? What's his name? Which one?
It's an unalienable or an inalienable right. Is that better for you than maybe, it could be any God that you prefer? How about this? A power higher than you.
He said the reason it's in the Constitution is because it's a God-given right.
Why does that bother you so much? Is there another power that you can give that to? Is there something that's beyond you, or are you only going to bow to a man like yourself to give you rights?
Me and that gentleman don't jive with the same God. So his God gave him, quote unquote, this right. That makes no sense to me.
So inalienable in the U.S. Constitution, where do you draw that line then? To whoever says that you have those rights or not, whatever government is elected at that time?
I don't think a mythical sky ghost leaned down a staff and gave the forefathers.
I don't think that's what he said. He didn't talk about a spaghetti monster or anything like that. He's talking about a power greater than man. And
Chris Miller absolutely believes that, Greg.
Sure.
Chris Miller absolutely believes that.
And his point is, and others pointing out, that indeed your rights under the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, especially the first and second, and the right to not have to be forced to say something, the right to not have to incriminate yourself, the right to due process. These are rights that go to you, not from some government. That's their point. It's not from...
Everything can be infringed on except the Second Amendment. Everything can be infringed upon except the Second Amendment.
It says in the Second Amendment shall not be infringed.
Everything else in the Constitution can be infringed. Because are we resting on Chris Miller's? Because God said so. Get your religion out of my politics. That's all I got to say. Thanks, Greg.
All right. Have a good day. Hopefully it doesn't disturb you too much that people believe in higher power. But anyways. All right. That's, of course, part of the debate. And is the debate able to be had? We'll have a display of that. Thomas Massey and another U.S. representative getting into a verbal altercation in Congress. We'll touch on that next year on WMAY. But you can always sound off at 217-629-7970. All right. Stay tuned. The caller, of course, highlighting how the debate about the Second Amendment, what it means, how it can get derailed when passions might supersede logic. Instead of talking about the issue at hand, you're then all of a sudden characterizing somebody you don't like a certain way as being, oh, that's too Christian for me, oh, that's too God for me, and whatnot. Well, how do we have these debates if that's the track we're going to end up going? In the halls of Congress yesterday, literally in the halls, a similar debate took place between U.S. Representative Thomas Massey and Representative Jamal Bowman, who had this exchange in front of a bunch of cameras that were rolling.
Children at all, cowards, Russia.
Calling them cowards.
What the hell were you threatening to say about our children? And let them explain that all the way up to election day on 2024.
So obviously making it political.
All the way up to election day on 2024. They're freaking cowards. They're
calling them cowards.
We're not here. I'm talking about gun violence.
You know, there's never been
gun cowards.
In a school that allows teachers to carry.
Thomas Massey talking about how there's not been any shootings where you allow guns to be carried by teachers. More screaming.
You're not looking at any data.
Screaming.
You're carrying the order for the gun lobby.
Wagging fingers in the face.
More guns, even more deaths. Guns. States that have open carry laws have more deaths.
Emotion. Can't have rational debate. Emotion.
Are you listening to what I'm saying?
More emotion.
Calm down, children are dying. 9-year-old children. Because the solution is not arming teachers. Have you ever worked in a school? Have you ever worked in a school?
Ad hominem.
Have you ever worked in a school? It's a yes or no question. Have you ever worked in a school? You will not answer my question. Don't stop and talk to me.
So,
okay, I'll bring it down a notch.
All right, folks.
Have you ever
Listen,
worked in the school?
I've got a bill to repeal the
I
federal...
worked in the school for 20 years.
You're just screaming.
I was a teacher. I was screaming before you came and interrupted me.
Right.
I worked in the school for 20 years.
So yeah, you can see how obviously the debate is a difficult debate to have when you let emotions pour over.
From the Fly SPI